Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Meal Prep Mastery for Moms, where I am your host, Nichole Teering, and I have the honor of interviewing some very intelligent, very skilled people, and they are all here to help you regain control of your health and sanity. And today I'm really excited because we get to interview Talya Lutzker. Talya has been practicing yoga since 1993. She found her passion and purpose in Ayurveda when she turned to it for her own healing in 2001. Since then, she's taught yoga to thousands of students, authored 3 cookbooks, launched her 7-day seasonal Ayurvedic cleanse program into the world, and opened doors to her year-long Ayurvedic self-care program for women, Nourishment School. Talya helps busy spiritual women overcome burnout, reclaim their health, and reconnect to their radiance, value, and purpose. Talya, I have a lot of gratitude for you being a part of helping our audience regain their health and sanity today, so thank you for joining me.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we have, these interviews are pretty short and sweet, so I'm going to just dive right in if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, my first question is that because you're so knowledgeable in Ayurvedic medicine, just really quickly, can you explain in a nutshell, and I know this is a loaded question, but in a nutshell, what is Ayurveda?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an important question. Ayurveda is the Indian holistic healthcare system. So it's a holistic healthcare system. And for the listeners who haven't heard of Ayurveda, it's possible that you've heard of Chinese medicine, and Chinese medicine and Ayurveda share a lot of similar roots. The primary one being that they're both elementally based sciences, meaning they're based in the 5 elements. And in Ayurveda, that is ether, air, fire, water, earth. So the basic premise of Ayurvedic medicine, first of all, it's been around for over 5,000 years. Yoga is a sister science to Ayurveda. I like to say that yoga is the exercise program of Ayurveda, and they're very intimately connected. And Ayurveda looks at every living thing as being made of or born from the 5 elements in varying degrees of, constitutional dominance. So I'll give you a really quick example as it pertains to food. So say popcorn, right? It's made from corn. It's air popped. It's very lightweight. It's very kind of insubstantial calorically. And in Ayurveda, that would be a food that's really, really dominant in the elements of air and ether, right? There's almost nothing to it. And air and ether is basically like space or wind. So if somebody is eating a lot of popcorn and they're not, doing other things around the eating of popcorn to help them digest the popcorn, they might experience like an abundance of gas. Right? Like they would actually then develop an imbalance of having too much of the element that food is so strong in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So each food has its own fundamental element origin. Like it's involved in other elements. I assume it's not just grounded to one piece only usually, but it's like, okay, this is categorized as X, Y, and Z.
Well, it's always going to be, is this food strongest in ether, air, fire, water, or earth? And it's not just what it's strong. It's like, what is it? I mean, it's actually just naming the chemistry of a food. So another example is, so popcorn is the example of a food that is predominantly air and ether, i.e. wind. A tomato is a food that's predominantly fire and water. It's right, because tomatoes are acidic in nature, and acid in Ayurvedic medicine always relates to the element of fire. Like if we're too acidic, we usually have inflammation, and anything that's related to inflammation is also fire. So tomato, being that it's just, I mean, I love tomatoes, but they are acidic. So they produce fire by their being, by what they are chemically, the way that they're constituted from the earth. And they're also juicy. So it's fire and water. And in Ayurveda, that's the pitta dosha, or the elements of fire and water. And then one, just to give a full spectrum, then if we were going to look at like a banana, for example, bananas are dense, thick, cool, heavy, even though they're a fruit. It's one of the heaviest fruits. Like if you're really hungry, you definitely want to eat a banana over like a few blueberries, right? It's going to give you a lot more bang for your buck. And endurance and longevity. And its predominant constitution is earth and water. So it's the heaviest of all the foods I just mentioned. Popcorn's the lightest, banana's the heaviest, tomato is the most kind of activating. And so we use food in Ayurvedic medicine to balance our own personal constitutions, which are born at the moment that we take our first breath.
Okay, so there's different types of people who respond differently to these different types of foods.
Yeah, so, okay, so now if I'm just going to stereotype people using celebrities, okay, just going to do this. So, you know, I think everyone knows who Woody Allen is. So Woody Allen, he's like so like tiny and thin and anxious and talkative and creative. He's so like lightweight and windy. He is totally like the popcorn as a person, right? He's like he's the human embodiment of the elements of air and ether, according to Ayurveda. So if he was living on popcorn, he would really not be doing himself a service, because he would be building up more of the elemental energy that he already is, which is inherently an imbalance.
Right.
So he would actually be the prime candidate to eat tomatoes and bananas, as this example goes, just because I'm keeping it simple.
Yeah, no, that's great.
If I were to look at like, what's his name? Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Most people know who he is. He is so fire, right? He's like muscly and incredibly good looking. But he's like fire, right? So he could eat tomato, but it's probably not a food that serves him as well as, say, a banana or the popcorn, because he's already fiery. He's already hot, literally and figuratively. And then someone like, say, Queen Latifah, she's really so naturally earthy and flowing and watery that for her, bananas would not be her optimal food, even though they're a fruit. Because she shares the same primary constitutional elements as a banana. And she doesn't need more of what she already is. We're always looking to balance with opposites in Ayurveda.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It is similar to Chinese medicine, right?
Yeah. Ayurveda focuses a little bit more on specific food and nutrition than Chinese medicine does, at least in my experience. Chinese medicine more really goes to herbs to correct an imbalance.
Yeah, there is an element of diet therapy for sure, but it's more like if you have heat, clear heat. If you have cold, nourish and warm. Yeah, so it's not as specific as what you're talking about, but it
goes into a lot more detail. It's very detailed around food.
So can I interrupt for a sec? So then if somebody is having like, let's say they've just had this ongoing health complaint or health complaints, and they've tried a lot of things, and they've tried eating healthy, and they've tried exercising, Ayurveda might be a nice place to turn to attempt a different approach. You know what I mean? Like like, because of what you're saying, it's so specific, and it's a different perspective on approaching your health and balancing out your health. So is that accurate? Is that a good place to go?
Totally. Yes.
Cool. Okay.
And you know what I find is, right, like the Ayurvedic lifestyle is not for everyone, because
No. Yeah.
there's no magic pill. Like, I mean, I think it's delicious and amazing. I think you can practice Ayurveda and have every single thing that you ever eat or consume be 100% delicious. And I really like to spend time making food and playing with food and all of that. That's why I'm on your summit. Why? That being said, you know, there are these little, like we're going to talk about, little hacks that Ayurveda offers someone that you may not, like, you don't commonly find it in other holistic health systems. For example, like, well, what if you just only drank warm water all day and you even added a pinch of salt to it a couple times a day because you run so cold and you tend towards dehydration so much? Could drinking warm water all day be a total game changer for someone? And the answer is yes. So, you know, looking at it from that Ayurvedic perspective, it's just one little hack, like one little shift that can make a world of difference for the way somebody feels and is able to move through their various health challenges.
Okay. Yeah. And you kind of started already chatting about what my next question was, which was what would be an example of some easy ways to incorporate some of this Ayurvedic principle into the kitchen, assuming someone knew what their body needed.
Okay, and that's such a great question. And that actually relates to my free gift for your listeners.
Oh, cool.
Because like Chinese medicine, you know, Ayurveda it's very much focused on self-awareness. And I would even say loving self-awareness. So there's no judgment around it. It's just noticing, am I hot, cold, wet, dry? Am I light or am I heavy? And it's, how do I feel right now? You don't have to try to figure out your core constitution or your birth pulse, because for some people it's going to be pretty straightforward, where they'll be like, oh, I totally know what I am. I'm always hot. I'm always hot. I'm so that fire, fire dosha. And other people are like, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. Sometimes I'm this, sometimes I'm that. When you just stay in the moment and you look at, how do I feel right now, and make your food and beverage choices based on that, that alone can not only build so much more health and wellness, but also strengthen your ability to trust yourself and, you know, give you a lot of immediate feedback on whether or not you were sensing correctly about what your body was feeling. Does that make sense the way I worded that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I like that a lot, because you could go based on your constitution if you found out what that was. But really, we change so much, or a lot of us do. Some of us are very consistent with our what we're happy about in our health and what we're complaining about in our health. And some of us, we might be complaining about this for a year, and then all of a sudden it's the total opposite problem, you know. And I find with women too, you know, we have babies and everything changes, or we go through menopause and everything changes. And so it's good to take that approach of just being more present and how are you feeling now? And using food to support what you need now.
Yeah, because, you know, digestion, it's interesting with hormones. Our hormones are emotionally we're really connected emotionally to hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in Ayurveda, we look at the whole glandular system and map the chakras right on top of them, because the chakras are like your sacred energy centers that are tracking you emotionally and energetically, and they are intimately connected with each and every primary endocrine gland.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, like, the glands drive us to eat what we eat if we're eating emotionally, and what we eat directly feeds back into the health of the hormones. So it's like when you can, that's why meditation is so revered and in yoga and Ayurveda, because you're just more equanimous about your choices. You are able to make choices from a place of what do I need now versus how am I feeling right now? Like, you know what I mean? An emotional, well, I feel angry, so I'm going to eat a bag of marshmallows. like, okay, I feel agitated. I feel irritated. I feel thirsty. I feel dehydrated. Well, I need to ground. I need like some root vegetables. I need some soup. I'm going to make a sweet potato, carrot, ginger soup right now and like ground myself out.
Okay.
It's so different. So anyway, the free gift that one of the free gifts I'm giving to this audience who's listening right now, thank you so much, to everyone who's listening, is called the Ayurvedic Body Love Starter's Guide. And it basically is this really great, super easy read guide that will help you identify what symptoms are related to hot, cold, wet, dry, light, heavy. So you have a much easier time identifying, like, because some people listen to this and are like, oh my God, I get it. And other people are like, what? How do I know when I'm cold? Like they're really not sure. And so cold could be like, oh, well, when you wake up in the morning, you have cracking joints. That's cold, according to Ayurveda. It's also dry. But there's little, like just starting to identify like, oh, well, that's how I'd know if I'm cold. That's how I'd know if I'm dry. That's how I'd know if I'm hot, or wet is another word for congested, basically. So anyway, that gift will help make sense of our conversation today. And there's also some really quick, fun recipes in there. So to get everyone listening started on applying Ayurveda and seeing if it's something that speaks to them.
That's very cool. That's a very generous gift, and that will help people sort of start their journey if they haven't already gone into Ayurvedic principles so far. That's very cool. So what does your kitchen look like? What do you got going on? I'm curious.
Like today, like right now?
Sure. Or even like your pantry. Like I know, spices have got to be a big factor in how you cook if you're cooking for Ayurvedic health.
Oh yeah. And spices, I always say spices changed my whole life. Cool. That was the very first thing that was given to me when I found Ayurveda. I was very ill when I found Ayurveda. I hadn't gotten my period in years, or that's not true. I hadn't had a regular period really ever for 15 years or so. I was emotionally all over the place, drama queen city. I was always cold. I was 10 to 15 pounds overweight, even though I overexercised and was bulimic in my early 20s. Even that didn't help me lose that 10 to 15 pounds. I was so frustrated. And I was really in a bad place. And then I broke out in psoriasis all over my body, which is autoimmune. So that's where I was when I found Ayurveda. And one of the first things that my practitioner said was, where is your fire? Not in a judgmental way. I made it sound kind of judgmental. She was like, where's your fire? I want you to start eating spices. Spices will give you fire and help you find your emotional, psychic, spiritual fire too,
Cool.
Literally what put me on the path for everything that I do now. I swear to God.
Oh,
so,
that's cool.
There are certain spices they're called tridoshic because those 5 elements, ether, air, fire, water, earth, in Ayurvedic medicine, they're broken down into 3 primary organizational categories. And they have Sanskrit names, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So there's 3, and those 3, organizational categories of the elements are called doshas. So dosha means, the best translation I've ever heard of dosha is that which most easily goes out of balance.
Ah, okay.
So if I go back to Queen Latifah and likening her to a banana, which I'm sure she would not appreciate, but maybe if she understood where it's going to be okay. You know, where she is most likely to go out of balance because of her nature is in the area of earth and water, which is mud. So she would get stagnant really easily, like all the qualities of mud you can think of. She would tend to be cool. She would tend to be sticky, thick, dense, heavy, which we can see just by looking at her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a healthy, to me, she's a real healthy kapha, but she could never be like, she could never go on any diet that would make her look like Woody Allen, nor would she want to. But, you know, that's the drift. So, oh gosh.
Well, we were talking about spices and just how that changed your life. Yeah. And just so in your kitchen, you must have, like, I imagine, I'm totally like, just because I'm a visual person, I picture your kitchen like having mason jars full of different cool spices that maybe somebody's never even heard of.
Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
I would love my kitchen. You'd be so into it.
Oh, awesome.
So there are certain spices that are tridoshic, which means that they are balancing for all three doshas. That's why I explained the doshas again in that way.
Yeah.
And so those are spices that would benefit anyone and everyone, as long as they weren't, you know, for some reason allergic to one of these. So turmeric is a tridoshic spice. Cumin, coriander, fennel seed. Although if I were going to get even more detailed, which Ayurveda loves to dive into the details. Yeah. Let's say I had someone who's really, really fiery. They're so hot, they're burning up. Would I give them turmeric or would I give them fennel? The answer in the beginning is I'd give them fennel, because even though fennel and turmeric are both tridoshic, fennel is much more specifically, like, it's going to really help to cool and nourish excess fire.
Right.
And someone who's really burning up is probably also getting dehydrated. Not necessarily, but often. Yeah. So I would give them fennel first and turmeric second. Or I would have them make a blend and be like, you know what? I want you to make a spice blend that's equal parts turmeric, fennel, and maybe coriander also, because coriander is just the all-around, all-purpose digestive regulating spice of Ayurvedic medicine. It's good for loose stool. It's good for constipation. It's good for anything, food poisoning. You can always use coriander. So I'd have someone make that spice mix and be like, okay, and now put half a teaspoon of that spice mix, stir it into your food at least a couple times a day.
Okay, right? So that also helps people get creative too with their cooking, because they can try new recipes that include that type of spice.
Yeah, and also it's like, I mean, it's one of the easiest things in the world to do is throw 3 spices that you really like, equal parts of each one, into a jar, shake it up, and be like, I just made a spice mix.
Cool.
You know,
I like that.
And you can put it on anything. So, I mean, well, the one I just said with turmeric, you wouldn't probably want to put it on something sweet, perhaps. But coriander, fennel, ginger, now you've got one that you could put on yogurt, oatmeal, smoothies, ice cream.
Neat, yeah. I love that. Okay, so that, you know what, believe it or not, we're already coming to the end of our call here. So I love those examples. I know it went so fast. But I love those examples. And normally I'm summing up these calls, but today I'm not going to, because you actually have 2 free gifts. And I feel like the 2 free gifts are really going to give people their base to start off, to start being curious and experimenting a little bit with Ayurveda. So can you, again, you already mentioned the one, can you let the audience know what they both are again?
Yeah, so that first one is the Ayurvedic Body Love Starter's Guide. So that's going to orient you to knowing how to think about yourself from an Ayurvedic perspective, just kind of ground you in the Ayurvedic science, the science of life that is Ayurveda, and identify hot, cold, wet, dry, get a pretty good idea of what you tend towards, and then you'll have recipes for that specific element. Like that, you know, if you're like, oh, I'm cold all the time, you'll go to where it says, okay, these are the remedies for cold, and you'll have a drink and a recipe and even a body care practice that you can do that's really helpful.
Oh,
And then,
that's awesome.
yeah. And then the other free gift that I actually created especially for this audience is the Ayurvedic Kitchen Hacks Fun Sheet. So it's a really,
Yay.
yeah, and it's super simple. I even sometimes call it, to my nourishment school students will laugh because I'll be like, let's talk about our lazy cooking techniques. Like in a way, I find Ayurveda to be one of the most, like one of the laziest kind of approaches to food because it's so simple.
Oh,
Um,
you need that though. You need those days.
yeah, and it tastes so, you can make it taste so good, and you're so, you know, you're basically so close to nature. You're just tasting nature when you keep it that simple, and it's just really beautiful and connecting, both internally and externally, and it's a wonderful thing to share with your kids.
That's
So
awesome.
the Ayurvedic Kitchen Hacks Fun Sheet, that'll be something that, you know, you can print out and hang on your fridge, and once a week try on a new Ayurvedic kitchen hack and see how it makes your life easier, more delicious, and healthier.
That's great. You guys definitely take advantage of that if you're listening in. You're a super sweetheart for doing that. You created a gift specifically for us, which is super nice, and you've included another gift that's going to help everyone get started on this really neat journey. So thank you again, Talya, for joining us so much. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much, Nichole. This is really a really great gift that you're creating for your tribe.
Yeah, I'm hoping to help as many moms as possible in 2018. It's my goal. So definitely be sharing with your friends, anybody you know who needs some relief with their health and sanity. We got you guys covered. We got all kinds of experts on this interview series, so don't miss a single interview if possible. And we will see everyone on the next interview. Thank you, Talya. Have a great day, and we'll definitely be connecting soon, okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.